New Zealanders, good evening, good night, good morning, whenever you're watching this transmission. It is I, Mike Martins, and I got a really special video segment I want to put together for the housing crisis down in New Zealand. I've been following the housing crisis down in New Zealand for about 4 years now. It's been, under the Conservative government, it's been an absolute disgusting nightmare. The impoverishedness, the cost of living, educated people can't find jobs, and people that worked hard all their lives having to tap into their home equity just to afford to live. Housing prices just absolutely, how quality of rentals with meth testing. New Zealand is been under this war of just living a normal life, a day to day, a day in to day out life. And this war, this housing war, this housing battle has been affecting a lot of the English-speaking countries all over the world. New Zealand, Australia, which also speaks English, has been having a really tough time in their major cities selling out to the highest bidders. Now, New Zealand has been like this, and the new party that's come in, they're there to make a difference. And a lot of people are taking things a long way and playing the whole racial card thing. So my hearts go out to the New Zealanders down there that have been really handed the short end of the stick for the last 6 years. I think it's 6 years or 9 years of the last government's power. And let me do a quick plug for myself here. This is my trends in the housing market that I do every Wednesday night. So if you want to join me for that. It's also on Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific time. It's 2 p.m. New Zealand, Auckland time. So at 2 p.m. Thursday, okay? If you're watching this in New Zealand live. We get a lot of people call in from New Zealand discussing the housing crisis and what's going on down there with the New Zealand proper. How they're pretty much completely bought out of the market, and 3-4 generations are completely bought out. And the meth testing homes, the contamination in homes with this meth testing, it's disgusting. I feel for the people big time. And a lot of people have become impoverished, sleeping in cars, and that's the norm. Like, oh, that's the norm now, New Zealand. Everyone's like, no, it's not. This never was the norm until the English-speaking countries, Canada, United States is kind of still a tough country just to get in there and do what you want, right? But Canada, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand that have basically built their economies off debt and built their economies off unsecured debt lines of credit, who's built their economies off freaking housing. And then they manipulated interest rates so low that you could afford $1 million house that's in reality worth $200,000. So they're telling you, hey, buy this house for $1 million. Excellent family starter home. Interest rates are low. Well, they manipulate the interest rates with the bullcrap quantitative easing so people borrow. What happens? Interest rates go up 1%. They can't service their finances anymore. Back in the day, interest rates were 12, 13% for a reason. Because to service your debt was expensive, but the cost of living was lower. So back in the day, you could bag groceries in the 1970s in a grocery store, bagging groceries full time and still pay off your house in 5 years. Now you're a doctor. It means nothing. You have a 6-figure income. It means nothing. So let's look at what's happening in New Zealand with the struggle. This is my trends in the housing market, guys. Subscribe to my channel. I do put up a New Zealand story every once in a while. I'm putting up this story because this trends in the housing market here from last Wednesday, aka Thursday afternoon at 2 p.m. The problem I had was the show went on too long and I couldn't cover New Zealand and Australia. So I'm going to do New Zealand today, and let's take an in-depth look on the housing crisis for other English-speaking countries to see what's going on in New Zealand and how they pretty much sold out. So let's start here. The struggle to find a home, hundreds of large families on waiting list. So this is from actually today. This is today's article from a couple hours ago. Today is April 6th, 2018. More than 700 large families are waiting for a state house, but the government's largest housing provider, Housing New Zealand, has less than 50 homes big enough to offer them. So this is what's happening. And a lot of people being put up in hotels and stuff. It's horrible. The largest figures released to the RNZ by the Housing New Zealand show that at the 31st of December 2017, there were 46 houses that had 4 or more bedrooms available to house families. The figures did not include transitional or emergency housing. The Ministry of Social Development figures also released to RNZ show that there are 707 families waiting for larger houses, and the most of those are Auckland-based Maori and Pacific families. Pacifica families. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I'm really sorry. There is also a council owned by the community-owned public housing that families on a register can be housed in. At the publication of the article, it is not known how many houses with 4 or more bedrooms of the combined approximately 20,000 houses in stock are ready to let. Housing in New Zealand manages more than 62,000 houses nationwide, and the Maori and Pacifica have some of the lowest home ownership rates in the country. Less than 40% of Pacifica and 50% Maori own their home, compared to 70% Pakahia. So soaring private rents and lack of social housing are forcing many into precarious situation. Many emergency housing providers are already full and juggling lengthy waiting lists, pushing families into overcrowded or unstable living situations. So this is a problem that's affecting a lot of people, and especially the New Zealand proper is really suffering with this. Now, this is what's happening right now, okay? So let's go over to this one. This is an older article, but I want to bring this up because I want to back Jacinta here, because Jacinta's doing a really good job being Prime Minister or President, or whatever you want to call it, or ruler of New Zealand. New Zealand homes not for sale to foreigners under new PM. So this is an older article. It's been revised recently, but it's very important that you guys understand how important this is for New Zealand to keep its sovereignty, its way of life, its people. New Zealand proper needs to understand this is. Let me give you my point of view on this, and I'm gonna, because it's my show, and let me tell you why. I've been to Mexico. And I lived in Mexico for 2 years, and I was going to buy a vacation property, even a retirement property there for the family type of thing. I walked in, I get laughed out of the bank. Oh, I'm going to buy free and clear. We don't care. You're a foreigner. You can't buy here. And the people that say, oh, I bought a place in Mexico. Oh, I bought a townhouse in Mexico. Yeah, read the fine print. Because you don't own nothing if you're a foreigner and you're buying in Mexico. You don't own nothing. So go ahead in the comments and keep telling me. I called my lawyer. I have a lawyer in Mexico in Cuernavaca, Morelos. I called him the other day because someone told me, oh, my uncle and expats, they're buying homes in Mexico and buy the lot. No. I called him, asked him. I said, dude, and I speak Mexican, right? I'm not Mexican. I speak Mexican. I speak Spanish and Portuguese. I told him, I go, dude, what's going on? People are telling me they're buying homes in Mexico. He told me, Mike, you'll never own the house. It says on paper that looks like you own the house. The government has every right to take anything away from you for being a foreigner. So, New Zealand wanting to protect their sovereignty and saying, hey, guess what? Hey, I wanted to open a bar in Thailand. Okay? A bar, pool hall type of thing in Thailand. Invest a bit of money and sink a little bit of money in Thailand. And when I went to go look at the documents, and they said, you're an outsider. You're going to have to sign this, and we could take this from you if this, and then this and that. And then after 10 years, you get a revision. And if we feel that you don't win, blah, 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 you're not a fit for the... Whoa! I'm a foreigner. I can't. Okay? So, New Zealand should start protecting its citizens by mirroring what other countries offer them. You can't buy a New Zealander, I don't know, but because I'm Portuguese Canadian, I'm dual citizen, right? As a Portuguese citizen, I could live in Brazil, I could live in Angola. It's really not that tough. But I think for a New Zealander to go up to live in China or to live in Taiwan or to live in Vietnam, I don't think you can. I don't think you could just go there and have a baby. I don't think you could just go into New Zealand, into those countries and get surgery or something. I don't think you could do that. I don't think you could buy property in those countries. I don't think they allow you. I tried in Thailand. I know in Thailand, they told me to get lost. So, and the same thing in Mexico, in 2 different states of Mexico. So New Zealand is seeing this like, hey, why isn't it? Well, too bad. If they want to do this, let them protect their sovereignty. Because New Zealand won't exist 50 years from now. The name New Zealand will, but no one will know what it means to be New Zealander anymore. Overseas buyers will no longer be allowed to purchase existing homes in New Zealand, Prime Minister-elect Jacinda Ardern said Tuesday as she unveiled a raft of policy deals made with her coalition partners. So, her coalition partner, what's his name? Mentions him here. I'm sorry, I forgot his name. The move to tackle soaring property prices was agreed during lengthy negotiations between Labour Party leader and populist power broker Winston Peters, that's who it is, from the new government that also includes the Green Party. Ardern announced plans to slash immigration and focus on regional development and job creation. That's how it works. That's how it works. It's focusing on regional development and job creation. You create jobs, you pay taxes. The taxes go to the infrastructure. People feel good about themselves. They feel accomplished. That's how it works. That's how it's supposed to work 50 years ago. Why isn't it working? Why aren't we doing this today? We sold out to the highest bidder. That's why. We have agreed on banning the purchase of existing homes by foreign buyers, she said, specifying that the new rules only apply to non-residents. We also have plans around farmland and other critical infrastructure, she added. Yes, without food and proper agriculture, the country has to import everything. Now, when you watch those civilization channels and watch those ancient civilizations, grand cities that are abandoned, and these big structures, archaeological structures that are sitting there abandoned, these big cities abandoned. Why did they abandon them? Why? Because they either ran out of food or water. And you think if it won't happen to New Zealand, it will. And once the agriculture disappears and everything goes away, people start leaving. And that's what usually happens. Anti-immigration campaigner Peters, whose support was crucial for Ardern from the ruling coalition in the 120-seat parliament, said a message has been sent to the New Zealand was no longer for sale. Alleluia. The New Zealand First NZF leader, set to be deputy PM and foreign minister in the new government, ended weeks of negotiations when he confirmed last week he would use his party's 9 seats to ensure Labour, NZF, and Green coalition with 3-seat majority. There's going to be a change and a clear signal sent internationally that New Zealand is no longer for sale in the way it has been. We're happy with that, he said. Definitely. You're selling out your grandkids and great-grandkids is what you're doing. Unless there's a wage increase. Because being a doctor nowadays means zero. You got a 6-figure income in Auckland, you're not buying nothing. Foreign ownership and housing shortage in New Zealand's larger cities were prominent issues in the lead up to September 23rd election, 2017, by the way, which brought an end to 9 years of rule by the Conservative National Party. Yeah, okay, 9 years. I thought it was 6. Poof. Ardern, who campaigned on social issues, including housing affordability and improved healthcare, has described capitalism as blatant failure. Thank you. Somebody that knows what they're talking about when it came to putting a roof over the heads over the poor. It's not even poor. You know what's happening in other countries like Africa, Middle East and stuff? Their lower to middle class is coming out of poverty. Okay? And countries like New Zealand are dipping into poverty in dangerous levels. You know what I'm saying? And kind of other countries, the poverty rate of starvation in the world is less than 9%. 50 years ago, it was about 50%. Okay? It was pretty bad 50 years ago. 65 years ago. Let's go 65 years ago. And now it's the English-speaking countries that have sold out their real estate because they stopped producing, stopped exporting, stopped manufacturing, and sold their jobs over to other countries so they can get rich and come back and buy you out. This 37-year-old said priorities for her new government would include raising the minimum wage, environmental issues, and tackling homelessness and child poverty. You'll see a reduction in inequalities, she said. Oh, yeah. Because it's gotten really bad there in New Zealand, and I really feel for my Kiwi friends down there. Wow, she has nice eyes. Wow, they're like green-brown. Let's go over to this guy here, the Bulletin. This is from yesterday, I think. Yeah, it's yesterday's article. The Bulletin. Critics hammer immigration in New Zealand's racial profiling algorithm. What the hell are you talking about? When I visited, what country? I visited a lot of countries. I'm trying to think which one I wanted to rent a place in for 2 months. When I went there, they had to call. Okay, I'm not going to mention the country because I don't want to get in trouble, but they don't speak English there. I went to this country, and I wanted to rent a place for a month or 2 months, and they had to call the owner of the property to let him know he's going to rent to a foreigner to get permission. So we looked at a couple of properties in a photograph thing. I said, okay, I'll take this. If they says no, I'll go to this one. I'll go. Every single person turned me down because I'm a foreigner. They said they'd rather keep their unit empty than rent it to me. So here's what they're saying in New Zealand now. Just stop bending over for everybody, is what I'm saying. The Bulletin critics hammer immigration New Zealand's racial profiling algorithm. They want to get so technical with these words here. Good morning and welcome to the Bulletin. In today's edition, Immigration New Zealand's racial profiling algorithm slammed by critics, showdown at select committee over Radio New Zealand meeting, and the Christchurch repairs cost gets even bigger. Immigration New Zealand has been piloting a data modeling program to identify groups of overstayers who are likely to commit harm in the immigration system or New Zealand. Immigration Minister Leanne Lees-Galloway fronted at Radio New Zealand a short notice to explain the program and repeatedly denied that it was an example of racial profiling, despite some of the data being based on ethnicity. He had just heard of the existence of the program when he went to Morning Report. New Zealand's radio bosses attended the select committee yesterday to set the record straight over meeting between Mr. Claire Coon and former head of Contact Carol Hedgesfield. It effectively developed into a sparring match between Labour and National MPs, with each trying to shoehorn the event into narrative and would better serve their side. For those still following the saga, the best accounts of the day came when Andrew Geddes and pundit, as well as all of that, Curran left the voicemail on RNZ's chair, Richard Griffin, the contents which would be damaging. Stuff reports the National MP Melissa Lee has demanded the message to be released, so there could be more to come. Public funding for large-scale irrigation projects is being wound down. Regional development. Let's get into... Meanwhile, a U.S. investor has leveraged a high-end housing development near Twizzle to get New Zealand residency. Stuff reports Texan businessman Charmel S. Crow is not planning to permanently relocate to New Zealand, but gave his remarkable quote to the Dallas News. But I've been thinking for a long time where to go if things became difficult in America. Not really just for social unrest, but because of environmental concerns. So a lot of people are trying to relocate to New Zealand too for better, to get away. And it's a lot of the people with money. A lot of people that want to invest want to head to New Zealand to maybe lay roots and stuff. But then the New Zealand property is getting bought out. You know what I'm saying? And they're calling it a racial and ethnic thing. You know what? Too bad. I've been to countries where I was laughed out of the office. When I went to go look at a house in just outside of Acapulco, in the state of Guerrero, and I went to go see this. I took my lawyer with me from Cuernavaca. We drove there. It was like a couple of hours drive from Cuernavaca. It's like 3 hours drive. I went to go see. I was showing them a property I wanted to buy. It got walls around it and everything, and a pool. And I said, okay, this guy wants 109,000 US, roughly what that was, and that would have been roughly $1 million and something pesos. But it was a beautiful house. It was worth it. It had like 11 bedrooms. It had 12 balconies all over. Every bedroom had its own balcony and sliding door. So we went to go look at it and say, I'll pay for it up front. There's no worries. I'll pay for it through a cashier's, like legally, like a cashier, through a banking system, like no strings attached. Just here it is. Here's my transfer from my bank. You know, type. They laughed at me. They're like, we can't sell you this property. You're not Mexican, and you're not married to a Mexican. I'm like, yo, dude, man, I just want a house, you know, somewhere I could come to, hang out, you know, maybe I might marry a girl from here. They told me no, they could sell to me, but it was so much fine print. My lawyer advised me, my Mexican lawyer advised me not to sign any of that because they'll just take it away from you and close your bank account. So people need to understand, you know, not every country's bending over for everyone to come in and buy them out. So people need to understand, yeah, okay, New Zealand's an attractive place to go live, but you got to take care of if New Zealanders disappear, New Zealand ceases to exist. It only exists by name. China is China because the people that live there are Chinese. Australia is Australia because the people who live there are Australian. Portugal is Portugal because the people that live there are Portuguese. But how do you explain Brazil if everyone's Portuguese in Brazil? Huh. Interesting. That's a show for another time. So the new prime minister, she's working really hard, and someone asked her the other day in the news, aren't you exhausted? Guardian readers ask. So she's tackling pregnancy, poverty, refugees, a teacher shortage. New Zealand's prime minister tackles the important questions. There's this teacher who wouldn't want to teach in New Zealand and go out and explain and teach kids. Who wouldn't want to? You know why? Because they can't afford to live. Being a teacher, a lawyer, a doctor means nothing nowadays in New Zealand because to get in, it's 12, 13, 14, 15 times your annual income just to put a down payment on the place, just to squeeze ahead. 15, 20 times your annual income. Back in the day when interest rates were 19%, or 16%, it was 3 times your annual income, what you could afford to buy. And then in the mid-80s into early mid-90s, it's 6.5% of your annual income. In the United States, it's still about 6.5 if you average it out. I know San Francisco is expensive. I know New York is expensive. But when you average it out across the board, it's still about 6 to 8 times your annual income. So it's still within reach for the average working person. But in New Zealand, forget it. It's over. So tough. When we recently interviewed the New Zealand Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, in Auckland, we took with us some questions from our readers. 12 hours after our call out for suggestions, we had received hundreds of questions from you. We filtered them down, so this is people asking questions. I'm going to leave with you guys what she had to say in this this interview with her. It's a new, fresh article. If you guys want it, it's by The Guardian there. And let's get to this one. This is a really good, really good. This is from a week ago. This article is really good. So all the English-speaking people all over the world can understand what's going on. Thousands of new homes to be built in Mount Albert. Now, Mount Albert's been in the works for a while, and it's finally coming together, and this is a really good article, so I want to share this with you guys. Up to 4,000 new homes will be built in a major new development on the land of the UNIX Mount Albert campus in Auckland, the housing minister has announced. So there's an aerial view of the area. Housing Prime Minister Phil Twyford formally launched the plan with the Prime Minister, who is the local MP, earlier today. The government has bought 29 hectares of land in the Unitix Mount Albert campus for the development, which will also include townhouses, terraced housing, and apartments. Mr. Trafford said the homes will be affordable, with 2 or 3 bedroom houses costing up to $600 large. The Prime Minister, Jacinta Ardern, said up to 40% of the homes will be a part of the government's new Kiwi Build program, which is mainly targeted towards first home buyers. This is fantastic. People aren't asking for free homes. People are asking for affordable homes, close to work. That's what they're asking for. Nobody wants free homes. Everybody's complaining that, oh, people are just protesting for free homes. No! Together with the state housing, that would make a majority of 4,000 new houses, she said. We certainly acknowledge that this is still a price for many is higher than even we would like, she said. This is Auckland pricing, of course. For the rest of the country, we are hoping to be in more affordable range. Ms. Ardern said the government hoped to have the first home built and occupied by next year. So I really hope God hears that. I really hope God hears that and that really happens. You know what I'm saying? Mr. Trafford said that the plan is the first major development under the Kiwi Builds. Too many Aucklanders are suffering because of the housing crisis. This government will not sit around while children are living in cars and families are cramped into overcrowded housing. We need bold action to solve this. And it's all the New Zealand proper that's really getting destroyed here. He said he wanted to create a community hub with good employment, opportunities, and public transport so that people will not need to drive into the city for work. Yeah, like drive 2 hours to get into commute. Oh, I'm a doctor. Oh, okay, where do you live? I live 2 hours out of town. I got to commute 2 hours, an hour, 2 hours a day. Why? You're a doctor. I don't make enough to live in my own city that I was born and raised in. You know how disgusting and sold out disgusting that is? By the time we're finished, we're going to have light rail, rapid bus services on Carrington Road. It's going to be the first major community in Auckland where we can live well and not have to own a car, he said. That's good. I hope they put up one bike lane, just one enough, because the weather there is decent for a good part of the year. You could bike to work too. It's also a nice thing. The National Party said that Mount Albert housing development was another example for the government's re-announcing projects already underway. Housing spokesperson Judith Collins said that the previous government has signed off on Unitec's plan to sell spare land for housing, and a plan change has already been approved by the Auckland Council. She said the only new aspect of the housing minister was prepared to use taxpayers' money to subsidize the project. Good! Use taxpayers' money instead of building war machines and tanks and building up armed forces you don't even need. Let's move on. Oh yeah, this one I'm not gonna get into too much because it makes me mad. It makes me really mad. Billionaires are pushing back against New Zealand's ban for foreign home buyers. You know what? Too bad. I try to buy in your country, wherever these guys are from, guess what would happen to me? They'd give me the finger and show me to the door. That's how it works. And if New Zealand wants to save its sovereignty, its people, and its way of life, guess what? They need to push back too. Because guess what happens when someone has nothing to lose? They push back. And that's when bigger problems start accumulating in the country. When people have nothing to lose, what do they have to lose? They start pushing back. Because they're dead inside. Rich real estate investors are voicing their discontent over New Zealand's ban. Foreign home buyers, several businessmen are mobilizing to amend the ban's draft legislation, warning that the move will hurt investments in the country's reputation. Too bad. What about your country's reputation? Start looking and mirroring what other countries are doing. I've been talking about this mirrored immigration system that every country should do because you know why? It's not racist. And how does it work? Okay, As I am a Portuguese and Canadian citizen, I'm a Portuguese citizen. It allows me to live in Brazil, Angola, Mozambique, all different types of countries, and live there without hindrance for X amount of time and apply for work thing. So people from Brazil going to Portugal get the same thing. So it's a mirrored thing, right? Lots of people from Portugal during the European economic crisis moved to Angola, Portuguese Africa, and did really well there and prospered, opened hotels and did really well. So what I'm saying, there's a mirrored. What could a New Zealander be offered if he was to go to Canada? So if you go to Canada, this is what a New Zealander would be offered to immigrate there and how the pattern would work. Canada, in return, will make the same thing for New Zealanders. So if I want to live in New Zealand as a Canadian citizen, what am I offered or what do I have to do in immigration process to get into the country? So we just mirror each other. So countries like, for example, like Thailand, when I want to open a restaurant there, or a restaurant slash playing pool, pub type thing, I went to go read the fine print and I never owned anything. The government owned everything. Or I would never own anything because I'm an outsider. So people from Thailand that want to move to New Zealand don't have anything. They're not allowed anything because of the laws that is offered to a New Zealander moving to Thailand. So then in reverse, it's a mirrored immigration system. I know, for example, in China, you can't buy, you just can't buy anything, right? So in reverse, it will be the same thing in New Zealand. So it just mirrors what you're offering the citizen. From this protects the citizen, keeps the sovereignty. Why do you think New Zealand is New Zealand? Because the people that live there are New Zealanders. The New Zealanders disappear and fade away in 50 years. New Zealand's only by name. Portugal, like I said earlier, Portugal's Portugal because the people who live there are Portuguese. Spain is Spain because the people that live there are Spanish. That's why we are made up in groups. Russia's not Russia because the border says so. It's because the people that live there are Russian and we respect the Russian territory. As for we should respect the New Zealand territory with this huge problem it's been going through for the last, 10 years where they're buying and selling out to the highest bidders. And 5 years ago got worse. And then up to the last 2 years until this new government came in, it got super worse with meth testing homes, putting people up in hotels, people sleeping in cars. It's been a disaster. Look how bad it's gotten in my homes, like the city I lived in before. When I moved up from Miami, I lived up in Vancouver for a while. I'm one of those statistics in this article. It's from the Vancouver Sun. Douglas Todd. Aboriginals and whites leaving Metro Vancouver. The net total of 9,345 whites and 460 Indigenous people have left Metro Vancouver for other parts of the province in the one-year period ending July 2016, according to the newly released Statistics Canada data. This is really bad because the demographics of the country starts to change. If Canadians don't live in Vancouver, it's no longer Canadian. It could say it on the map, it could say it on the signs, but it doesn't become Canadian anymore. So the amount of people leaving Vancouver, I left, I'm one of those statistics. I don't think I'm white. I'm Portuguese, I'm not Latin, so you know what I'm saying. But I'm probably in that statistic because I moved 2 hours away from the big city. And now it feels like I'm living in Canada again. It's different. Everybody speaks English. It's good again. You know what I'm saying? So I want to know what you guys think of what's going on. And Jacinta here, and everyone asks me in the emails that I get, why do I pronounce her name Jacinta? Jacinta and Jacinto are Portuguese names. Jacinta is a very, I was going to call my daughter that because it's if you go to Brazil, or Portugal, any other Portuguese-speaking country, Angola, Mozambique, it's either a middle name for a girl, it's a very popular last name, and an extremely popular first name. And then Jacinta is the feminine, and Jacinto is the male version of it, and it means Jesse, and Jacinta means Jessica in Portuguese. I wanted to put that out there because people ask me in the emails, why are you pronouncing your name Jacinta? Well, no, that's how I've pronounced it like that all my life. I think that's my mom's middle name, too. But I'm saying, just to get that straight for you guys. Anyways, I want to know what you guys think about this, what I've been talking about for the longest time. I've been following. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to my channel. I do do unboxings and other bizarre things to keep my channel in balance so it's not so political. If my channel gets political, it starts getting flagged. If I do a little bit of Pokemon Doc, a little bit of Magic the Gathering, maybe a board game discussion, it kind of keeps the channel in kind of a check and balance. So it kind of looks like there's more other people that are subscribed to other channels watching my channel. Because YouTube has been basing it off everyone that looks at political channels. Okay, this is a but if people that talk about cartoons and YouTube and video games are watching my channel, it doesn't get targeted and flagged by their automated system. So I hope you understand when I put up a video that's non-housing related, nobody freaks out. Anyways, I've been talking for 35 minutes, guys. I'm going to let you guys go. I'm going to thank everyone for watching. The New Zealand housing crisis, I really hope God hears us, understands that this needs to be fixed, because there's no way around it. This needs to be fixed, because 50 years from now, a Kiwi or New Zealander just will cease to exist because of money. Comment below. Let me know what you guys think.